because I saw a lot of the children. I saw chess change their lives. I saw children that had self-esteem problems. I saw them become confident, and they began to reflect even in their academics. But I quit because I wasn't earning enough, and I had to always wake up very early in Ikorodu and go all over Lagos as a chess coach. And the reason why I quit was because of an incident at one of the schools I taught in, this girls' school, Vivian Fowler. And one of those days, I was teaching the girls, and one of them just asked me, they said, "Uncle, this chess we are learning, is it so that we can become a chess teacher like you?" And I didn't even know what to tell her. I just said, no. But I couldn't stop thinking about it because I wasn't successful. I was a good chess player. And whenever I went, whenever I told people I could play chess, they had this respect for me as an intellectual. It didn't even matter whether I was educated or not. Oh, you must be a very smart person. I mean, while that isn't necessarily the case all the time, but it holds on to a different standard, to be intellectually inclined, to search for knowledge. And that is what it means to be a true intellectual, the constant yearning for knowledge. Held me to that standard. And even though I was a boy from the slums of Ikorodu, I always wanted to read books. I always wanted to be different. Chess helped me understand power of focused thought. But I wasn't successful. And it dawned on me that day that, is this what I really want to do for the rest of my life and keep struggling? And I quit. I said I wasn't going to do any chess again. Let me just focus on jackpotting and live in this country. But something else happened, so I quit. And what happened next was the most important decision I ever made for myself and for my future, and most importantly for my legacy. I decided to serve. Now, Merriam-Webster defines volunteering as, service to an organization that is unpaid. But you know what I think volunteering is? I think it's just service, period. I decided to serve other people because I realized something. I was teaching rich kids in private schools how to play chess. Their parents could afford to pay a lot of money for it. It could be in those classrooms. But there were other children that will never get the same privilege to be in those places. So they will miss out on these tremendous benefits that the game has to offer. To the rich kids, to just be another program in school, but to them, it could be the only thing that could give them hope. And I decided that I was once a child like that. I decided to give that service instead to children in those places that do not go to school. And that was the biggest decision I ever made for myself. And it is in the service of others, that we truly find ourselves. That is one of the core reasons why it's important at some point in your life, in your journey, to give yourself to the service of something that is unpaid. That doesn't come with any selfish, reward, right? Because true success is not a personal one. I've enjoyed a lot of success recently. But all of that success has nothing to do with what I've achieved as a person. It is truly validated in the lives of the children, that I've encountered on this journey of just taking chess to slums. So I named it Chess in Slums, an initiative that uses the game of chess as a framework to give children in slum communities life-changing opportunity. And that was how it started. That realization that I had a talent, but the talent shouldn't just serve me. I'd gone pro, I'd been ranked number 13 in Nigeria, and I couldn't go any further. So I thought about how my talent could become a gift to another person. So you have something, and you give it to another person. It doesn't remain as your talent, it becomes a gift to the other person. Chess was my talent. And I decided to give it as a gift to children that live in the poorest places around me that I knew. So I took a few chess boards, I gave up on my plans to jackpot. A very foolish decision at the time. My parents were so mad at me. I had an opportunity, I got a job in Atlanta to go teach chess. Parents were really mad at me. I forfeited that to go and start doing charity in slums. Just because I had an idea. And this was the mindset behind it. Chess is a respected game played by, CEOs, a lot of intellectual people around the world. So there's this intellectual prestige to it. But when you think about chess, you don't think about children in poverty, children in the ghetto. For children in the ghetto, you are thinking about survival, about give them food, or they're hungry, they're suffering. But how do you now give them chess, a game that is meant for the elites? It doesn't make any sense. And that was why I did it, because I wanted to change the narrative, right? That children in these places can also be intellectually inclined. Because while talent is universal, opportunity isn't. And until you give them the opportunity that they deserve, you'll never get to know what they can truly become. So I took a couple of chess boards and I went there. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that I could teach chess. I've been doing it for a number of years. And we gathered about like 5 children together and they sat down. And the first problem came up. The children had never been to school before, so they couldn't speak any English word. And I didn't know how to teach chess in Yoruba. I mean, how do you explain to a child that has never seen the four walls of a classroom before that a rook moves vertically and horizontally? How do you explain that? So it dawned on me that there was no way to effectively communicate, the details of the game to them. Because chess is a very complex game. And you need to use a lot of complex terminologies to explain all these things to them. But guess what? They learned. They did not just learn. I'd never seen children learn at such remarkable pace before. It was unbelievable. I was astounded by what these children were able to do with just one class. They were able to learn the board coordinates, learn the rules, the movement of all the pieces. Started doing a small opening theory. I didn't teach them using English, I used their own language and a lot of gesticulation. So, and they got it. And I couldn't believe it when I got home that day, right? And it made me realize something that we are neglected as a society. That there's no single story about any people, right? There's no single story. And there's a lot of talk about how Africa has a lot of potential. That's our story. Potential is nothing if it's not realized. And these children have potential. And I found a way to help them realize that potential through chess. And for children who didn't speak any English word, chess became their first language. And for the first time, they had the ability to do something that wasn't physical, that wasn't their minds. And that is where every single innovation stems from. From the skyscraper to every single thing in this room, it's a product of somebody's imagination, somebody's thinking. And that was how we started. I kept going back there every week. I was even jobless. I used to play piano in church so that I was able to still earn at least small money to survive. But during the week, I would always go there to that slum community, imagining building, and teach the children. They were not going to school, their parents were so poor. And in about 3 months, they got really good, really good. And when I say really good, something that took me maybe a year, they learned it in 3 months. They were playing chess. They were playing it really well. And from 5 children, it grew to 10, to 20, to 50, and we had 100 children. Although most of them only came because we used to give them biscuits after the training. So, incentives, right? Because a lot of them and their parents didn't understand what chess was. So the parents would rather the child go and do a menial job to support them. What do you mean they should come and be playing one plastic chess? But we had to really convince them. And we give them food. So they knew that at least they'll get food. And for some of them, it was actually the only meal that they'll get to eat the entire day. Poverty is terrible. There's a lot we don't understand about it because it was shaded by our privilege. Poverty is a deeply psychological warfare, and it is one that has been propagated for so many generations, right? That is why there are 100 million Nigerians in multidimensional poverty right now. right? And it might look like some random, number statistic. But the truth is that these are actual people. And the ones that bear the most brunt of this are children. But these children that started teaching in poverty that the world doesn't pay attention to, they were excelling at chess because somebody took a chance on them. And I started sharing their stories. And anytime I share their story, somebody would just read it on Facebook and be like, wow, so this child can play chess. I'd like to support this child's education. And one by one, the children started getting scholarships. One by one. So chess wasn't just the end of itself. It became a means to several ends for them. Education being one of them. This was back in September 2018 when we started. And we just kept doing it, no recognition, nothing. I was deeply passionate about it. I was living the best part of myself with the children. I didn't excel as a professional eventually. I could watch the children excel and even go much farther lengths that I didn't get to. And I kept doing it. From Majidi in Kurudu, we decided to go to another community in Makoko. Makoko is the largest floating slum in the world. From Makoko, we decided to even go to Burkina Faso. From Burkina Faso, we decided to now come to Oshodi. And in that time, we thought train more than 500 children. No funding from anyone. We just had a couple of chessboards and I had a couple of amazing friends that were as passionate as I was. And we all gave ourselves different roles and responsibilities. And nobody was paid because how could we get paid? There were times that me and the children, we had to trek from tournament venue to like a very long distance of like 30 minutes, so we'll enter bus there to save cost. There was no money, I didn't even have a job. I was just playing piano in church and earning stipend. I even had to resign from church because I wanted to move the classes to just weekends. But the children were excelling. And that was the greatest success story for all of us that were volunteering our time. Just to create a safe learning space for them to learn chess and excel at it. Then something changed. The world began to notice what we were doing. And this wasn't just another typical story of NGOs or charity organizations going to poor communities to demean them and give them handouts, give them spaghetti and tell false tales of impact. They call it optics, tokenism. This wasn't that. This was different. This was a narrative that was instead shining spotlight on what the children had the ability to do. And it's important that we frame this properly, right? There are children in poverty, but we're not telling that story of poverty or suffering. We're instead saying this is what they have the capacity for. And they are being judged based on that premise of what they have the ability to do, not their background or what they look like. And that framing changed people's perception about the slums, about those children, and people began to actually send them to school, give them scholarship opportunities. A lot of the children in our academy, they started winning tournaments, and they got an opportunity to go back to school because of it. And when we came to Oshodi last year, we wanted to do the same thing we have been doing for the past 3 years. Stage an intervention for children under Oshodi Bridge. For those that don't live in Lagos, Oshodi is one of the most dangerous ghettos in Lagos. Like cultism, stabbing, stealing, everything happens there. Call them area boys, agberos, thugs. There are lots of them that live there. And I had this crazy idea to just go there and teach them chess. I didn't know what the end was going to be. Anyway, I'd already settled because somebody asked me how would chess put food on their table. And I didn't know how to answer the person. I just kept doing what I had faith in, what I had the ability to do. Right. And we came to Oshodi on that bridge, and we met area boys. And the first day I went there, they were like, Alpha. They wanted to collect my phone. I just said, calm down. I don't have money. I want to tell you guys something. That was why I came here. And they were like, kilo share. I said, I want to meet the children here. So the way I spoke with them, they knew that I wasn't there to look down on them or be condescending. But I was there to share an idea with them, and I wanted them to be a part of it. So we told all the area boys, we were not there for the area boys, we were there for the much younger ones there. And we might not understand how the area boy cycle happens. We only complain about the problems. We have a tendency to complain about the problems, while we miss out, the things that actually cause the problems, the effect. And one thing that really inspired me to go to Oshodi on that break, the most dangerous schedule, to say I want to teach them chess, was because I was driving Sunday and I was in traffic, and a little boy just walked up to my car window, started begging me for money. And I'm sure for everyone that drives here, you've experienced that at some point, right? And I didn't have any money, so I was trying not to maintain eye contact, You don't want to look at them so you don't feel guilty. And the boy just kept begging and begging and begging, but I didn't have any money. Thankfully, the traffic cleared, and I drove off. But I couldn't stop thinking about that boy. You know why? Because someday, that boy is going to grow, and he's going to lose his childhood innocence. And that thing that I didn't get while I was begging you, will show you a gun or a knife, and you have to give it to him, right? So then why then are we not paying attention to these street children and not engaging them or giving them a more positive way to express themselves? To these children who had fallen through the cracks of society, through the cracks of our educational system. So how can we engage them differently and reimagine education in a way that includes them too? Sports is a form of education. It's an alternative form of education. Because for me, education, beyond the four walls of the classroom, is the capacity for thought, the capacity for independent thought. And that is what makes a true athlete. To be able to think independently, trust your intuition, and make those decisions. In practice, that is what makes a good athlete. And I thought, how can we reimagine education through chess for these children, right, that have been neglected, so they don't evolve into those area boys that will now start obtaining you with a gun or with a knife. So that was what inspired me to go there, to listen to the children, listen to their own side of the story, and give them one more thing to be hopeful about. And we told the area boys that, gather all the children together, and we went to start calling them. And I said I wanted to come and teach them chess for a few weeks. And they said, no, I'll give them money. I said, I don't have money, but this is what we can do. You guys will join us as volunteers. So Rasak, you'll be in charge of welfare. Jeremy, you'll be in charge of arranging the tables and chairs every morning. Dayo, you'll be in charge of security for us here. These guys are cultists. Some of these guys have killed people, have murdered people. I kid you not. All of them have been to jail before tampering their lives. These are criminals, and there are very frequent cult clashes in that place. But for the first time, and these are the same people that politicians use, as pawns for their own selfish ambitions. But for the first time, someone called their names with a purpose. Someone gave them responsibility that was greater than their own selfish interest. And that's what volunteering means. And they were so happy. I wish I had included the video in the slide. They were congratulating themselves. Hey, Shemun, head of welfare. They wore it with a badge of honor that, I'm going to be head of something. I'm going to be the programs manager. They were boys that had never done anything like that before in their lives. And I remember when NASA wanted to go to the moon for the first time. Ronald Reagan, then President of the United States, he went to NASA headquarters. And when he walked in, he saw a cleaner, a janitor, and said, "What are you doing?" Yeah. He said, "I'm helping to send a man to the moon." And that's true, right? Because he's a cleaner, he's cleaning. But then, in his own little capacity, he's contributing to an even greater effort to send man to the moon. And that is the truth. What he contributes is undeniable. But it's not about him or the engineers. It's about a greater purpose. And for the first time, the area boys felt as a part of something. I was greater than them. And that was how we were able to turn one of the most dangerous ghettos in Lagos to a classroom for children to learn chess. And that was the beginning of a much more beautiful story. And that was how I met Fawaz. Somebody has gone too far with his life. Please go back to Fawaz. And that's how I met Fawaz. He was one of the boys that we selected. There were about 51 children that showed up for the training. And Fawaz was one of them. Now, Fawaz ran away from home when he was 12. So he had been under the bridge for 6 years. Now he was 18. And he had lived 6 years of his life under a bridge, on the streets, hustling as a conductor, right? And do you know why Fawaz left home? Because of poverty, it's plain and simple. He's an orphan. He was living with his grandma, and they were living in the village, and there was just nothing for him. And his teachers in school would call him Olodo because he was struggling. And he dropped out and came to Lagos with hopes of making it and going back home. But that didn't happen, obviously, because things are probably tougher in Lagos. But this time around, it was a lot worse because he didn't have a roof over his head. And Fawaz was one of the kids. And we started teaching them every day. Chess is an interesting game because it's very complex. It's a mathematically infinite game, right? After the first 4 moves, the number of ways you can play a game, there are more than the number of atoms in the universe. So when you have a plethora of options at your disposal like that, you have to make just one move, one decision. And there are a lot of interesting parallels between chess and life. You know, sports teach us a lot of things about life if we pay attention to the details of it. And imagine teaching area boys that are, but they learned and they were exceptional. And at the end of that training phase, after 5 hours every day for a month of rigorous training, the children became really good. Area boys, street kids. And we had a tournament for them. And when we had the tournament, we wanted to change the world's perception of them. Because I'm a believer that there is no single story. And we have to challenge stereotypes by introducing a new idea. And the new idea was that we are all area boys. Not just them. Any one of us could be in the same situation if you were probably born to a mother that was maybe selling paraga on the Oshodi Bridge. It could have been you. It's called the lottery of birth. And that's just the reality, that when you're born into poverty, you only get to act out the script that life has made available to you. And that is the story of thousands and thousands of children living in poverty right now. It's the story, not their own choices. The choices of their parents has chosen a life for them. A life of struggle. A life without imagination. Most of us sitting here, we didn't get to live that struggle like this because we had education. We had a loving family and parents. For most of them, they've never known what that means. So they chose to the streets and it became their home. So how then do you blame them for doing anything to survive? So that's why I said we are all area boys. Not because we are told thugs and hoodlums and aggroways, no. But we are all victims of a dysfunctional society. In different degrees, yes. And that is why they do what they do. Because life hasn't given them a lot of options. But while teaching them chess, I told them something. You have options now. Your dreams can take flight from this simple chessboard because you get to create your own choices. And that is what life is. Now, you have a clean slate and you get to make your own choices. And we did the tournament. And they didn't dress like this. They dressed like me, exactly like me. We made this kind of clothes for them with this cap for all 51 children. And they competed. And Fawaz became the champion. Not just of chess, but of mental maths. I realized that I was a gifted child. A genius even, whose teacher had called an Olodo. And for a boy who wouldn't fit into the educational system and had fallen into that crack of society, chess became a lifeline for him. And the story went viral. It went viral all over the world. And the story of the Oshodi boys becoming chess champions was unheard of. How does this happen? Right? And that changed his life. People raised more than 2 million naira for him as a champion. He got a modeling contract as a chess player. And the stories are just endless. For those people that were following on Twitter, stories are beautiful. So that was how I met Fawaz. And that was how the talent that I had, when I combined it with volunteering as a service, it became a gift that changed his own life. This is Ferdinand. To save time, I won't go into the details of it. Ferdinand is a boy that we met when we were in Makoko, in the slums of Makoko. He lives with a medical condition called cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is basically brain damage that inhibits movement, muscles, and everything else, speech impairment. He was 10 years old, 10-year-old when we met him. We met him in Makoko where they spoke Igbo. They didn't even speak any English. He had never been to school before. And the other children in the community used to bully him because of the way he walked and the way he did. They didn't understand his medical condition. So they would bully him and call him Golugo. Golugo means dummy in English, in Igbo. And he would always go home and cry to his mom. And when we did a program in Makoko, we had selected all the children. We selected about 100 children and wanted to train. But they didn't let him come. And I saw him crying outside and I told him to come inside. I asked him for his name, he couldn't speak. But we just put him in a class. And the next thing I saw, our programs manager came to call me and he was crying. I was like, what happened? He said, come and see this boy. And this boy that doesn't speak, that doesn't walk properly, that has cerebral palsy, was better than everyone in his class. And we couldn't believe it. So I was amazed, and I said, just keep training him, just keep training him. And we just kept training him. And it was clear that I was a gifted child. And you could see something in his eyes had changed, it was different. From a child that was being bullied for having this medical condition, the spark in his eyes became different the moment he started learning how to play chess. You could see that he had found something that he was good at. And that was the way he could express himself. And we did a tournament. This time around, we didn't make things like this. We made suits for them. 3-piece suits. Because we want to change the perception of our slum children, not African children in poverty that are suffering. No. We want to create a new image for the Nigerian child. Not one of poverty. I mean, that's the reality and it's undeniable. But one of possibilities. Because with the right opportunities, possibilities will thrive. And you never know the extent to which these dreams can become validated by just giving your service to them. And Ferdinand won the tournament, a boy with cerebral palsy. And the story went viral too. In fact, that day I got over 200 emails from parents with special kids all over the world, telling me how inspired they were Ferdinand's story. And I got a call from the governor of Lagos State. And he said, Tunde, I saw a boy that was playing chess. Can you bring him to my house? I play chess too, let's play. And I took him to the governor's office. And he sat down and he played. And he gave me an head in a draw. But the boy was winning all, but let me tell you, Ferdinand had barely been playing chess for about 3 months, but the governor had been playing for years. And he had him to draw. And the governor was amazed. And he went into his room and came out with 1 million naira and gave it to him. And till now, he sponsors the boy's education, not just him, all his siblings. And that changed Ferdinand's life from one of the poorest communities in the world to becoming a chess champion. And that's Ferdinand. I remember we traveled to Abuja together last year for a conference. Everybody just wanted to meet him, he became a celebrity. I remember all of this happened because I decided to share my talent as a gift to other children like me. Alright, so next slide. So look at Fawaz now. This was a picture during a modeling shoot with a company. From being a street kid living in Oshodi on that bridge, he lives with me now. We visited his grandma recently. To being a global star, a chess player. He's now learning, web development. He created his own website using HTML and CSS after just learning coding for a month. And he's still making progress. And he still wants to be a chess master. He's always bragging that he will beat me someday. Don't worry, that's my own dream. It's the dream of every coach that his student surpasses them. But you have to work hard. But he's doing well, and now he's no longer a street kid. He's now a chess champion and web developer, and he looks dapper now, right? He looks different. And that is Ferdinand on the day of the tournament. He goes to school now. He's doing well. Netflix is going to make a movie about him. And that's Ferdinand again with his mom. That was the day of the tournament. We can see him on the day of the tournament. Look at that look on his face. That's the look of a child that now has the ability to do something. And you have to respect him for it. It doesn't matter if he's from Makoko or his family is poor, his dad is a fisherman. What matters is what he can do. A passenger driver came to Oshodi on that bridge. He came to Oshodi on that bridge. I got a call. I told you the Oshodi on that bridge boys. Our stories went viral. And he came down all the way from London to Nigeria to come to sit down under the bridge, to learn how to play chess from the children. And that's it. It is indeed possible to do great things from a small place. And you never know the extent and reach. Just your service to something that you care about. You'll never get to truly know the full manifestation of it when you start out. A lot of people came to Oshodi on that bridge. In fact, it became a tourist center. The Canadian embassy called me and said, "Oh, we heard that some kids in Oshodi playing chess. We want to invite them to our office, let them come and meet the Deputy High Commissioner. The High Commissioner is around." I said, "No, if you guys want to meet them, come to Oshodi on that bridge and meet them." And the High Commissioner came and shook hands with area boys. And the Canadian Royal Naval team too came. And one of the children that we trained, he played 4 of them simultaneously. And he beat all of them. Don't worry, these stories are there. And that was the beauty of what happened in Oshodi on that bridge. Because we thought about service to this place. Just using the talents that we had to give these children an opportunity to see the world differently. And it birthed a lot of these success stories. These are not the only success stories. There are so many of them. But because of time, these are the 2 stories that I'll share to help you understand that great things can happen from a small place. And you must act as if what you have can fundamentally change something. It doesn't matter how small it is. Chess was what I had. It could be anything else. It could be football. Evra, that doesn't play chess, he came to learn how to play chess at Oshodi on that bridge. The Canadian embassy came. Journalists from all over the world came, from the Times, London, from CNN. They wanted to meet the boys, and now it was a different conversation. It wasn't children in poverty. It was children that could play chess. Then I had a gift that they could share with the world. And this changed everything for them. It is possible to do great things from a small place. This is the one thing that has kept me going. Now, you see that I haven't talked about myself yet. Because there's really nothing to talk about, right? Recently, I've won a lot of awards. A lot of awards. Business Insider Social Entrepreneur of the Year, Future Awards Africa, Royal Awards, JCI Awards for Children and Humanity. I've won, in fact, I need an initial for my awards. But all of this doesn't matter, right? Let me tell you what truly matters. And what would be the greatest metric to measure the success of this project? It's in the lives of the children that we're advocating for. To see that that child that had no hope because of a life that poverty has chosen for them. You see that their dreams can also take flight from as simple as a chessboard. To validate their dreams that for them too, it doesn't matter where you're from, or your background or what you look like, that you can also do greatness from a small place. To be able to build a future that includes all of us, that doesn't leave anyone behind because of what they look like or where they're from. But that responsibility is on all of us, we young people, we old people, to know that whatever talent you have, whatever privilege you have to pay it forward through service. And it's not the kind of job that you can be paid for. There's no amount of money that anyone will pay me now I could compare to these things. It's impossible. There was no money when we started out for 3 years, but now we've raised over 100 million naira for the project. And this is just a starting point because I have a vision and it's quite clear. And the past few years have been a learning journey to understand how this truly creates meaningful impact in my community. And my vision is to build the biggest chess academy in the world that will become a learning space for orphans, for street kids, children in poverty, where they can begin to learn not just chess, but to learn critical skills that will prepare them for the future of work. It's a grand vision, right? And it's not one that I can do alone. And the only way this can truly become successful is if every one of us also take up the mantle in our own space. To use what you have, no matter how, it doesn't matter how little it is, to change the world. Right? You might not be able to do a lot of things at the same time, but it could count for just one person. And that is everything. It truly is everything. And I've learned that on this journey, on this very beautiful journey that I've chosen, because I took a chessboard and gave it as a gift to someone else. Now, there's this African philosophy, Ubuntu, says, I am because we are, right? And society has conditioned us in a way to think about success as an idea of self. Oh, I want to become successful, I want to buy a Mercedes Benz, I want to buy my Lamborghini, I want to get my master's degree, I want to get my PhD, I want to buy my house, have my family, and they're successful in society. I mean, people would rather celebrate someone that buys a new car than someone that says, oh, I sponsored 10 children to school this year. That is how society has conditioned us, to think about success as a personal one. But I tell you today that success is none of those things. Success is communal. And the question that we get asked when we're young, that what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a doctor. I think it's the wrong question. A more important question is, who do you want to be when you grow up? And I can tell you who I want to be when I grow up. I want to be remembered as the guy who decided to shine spotlights in places that people neglect. And that has steered me towards this journey of using chess to change lives. So I ask us today, right, search within ourselves and ask the same question: who do you want to be when you grow up? Maybe not when you grow up, because some of us have already grown ups. But who do you want to be, not just for yourself? I know you achieved all of those things for yourself. But now, who do you want to be to other people? Using the gifts that you have, the privilege that you have enjoyed. How do you become a conduit and pay it forward to other people? So they could begin to rewrite their own stories like this, just from the dreams of a child taking flight from as simple as a chessboard. And that is the true definition of success, because That is how we can really change anything. Sport is a very powerful tool. It can do things that even conventional education cannot do. Because sport is a universal language. We've gotten people from all over the world to support our project. Just yesterday, we hosted the president of the World Governing Body of Chess in our academy. The FIDE president, Arkady Dovkovic, is a Russian billionaire. He came to Nigeria for the first time to see what we do, to play chess with the children. And he was impressed. He was almost moved to tears to see that children in the slums are this good at chess. And he committed to sponsor them abroad for the global tournament. And if I had never, in my wildest dreams, thought I was going to meet the president of the World Governing Body of Chess. That's the equivalent of the FIFA president coming because of your project here. And I never thought that could happen. But then it happened, and now it just feels normal because we've done so many more phenomenal things. And you should just keep going like that because I have a vision and it doesn't just end here. And it is to reach 1 million children across small communities in Africa. So on a final note, I'll tell you this. A lot of what we currently do, has a direct vertical to what could impact the life of another person. And when we truly recognize where our privilege intersects with another person's oppression, we find real opportunities to make change. That is the starting point, to know that this is the privilege that you have in terms of skill, resources. And when it intersects with another person's oppression, where another person isn't as privileged as you are, that is when you find the core of what you need to do for your community as a service, as a volunteer. Now I'm the convener of Slums Africa, but at the core of what I do, I'm just a volunteer giving my service to humanity. And I encourage all of us to be volunteers for the causes that we care about, because this is the only way we can achieve national prosperity. No leader is going to come from anywhere to save us or change things for us. It is important that the leader must emerge from the communities that they must serve. So it is the duty of every community member to nurture, to teach the ones that suffer most, or the ones that bear a greater burden in that community, the poorer ones, to not look down on them, but to serve them and nurture them. And that truly is how we can attain national prosperity, through volunteering ourselves. Thank you very much.
Wow. He said he wasn't going to talk about himself, but he's mentioned like